Hello, this is Arpita. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about triangle pose and some of the mistakes that I've noticed from my teaching experience people make when they are in triangle pose. And because of the mistakes and because of this reason, sometimes people complain about their lower back tension or a side joint tension or sciatica issue, and they try to stay away from this pose. So first, let's understand what are the mistakes or what are the things that I notice from my teaching experience people are doing it wrong in triangle pose. So as we all know, Trikonasana is a standing posture, right? The right foot facing forward, left leg back. And a lot of time people get into this habit just because their mat is long, they need to extend your legs wider. You don't have to. If you already have a tension in your lower back and hip region, then be mindful. You don't have to have a long stand to begin with. Your heel in step, right? And then a lot of time the things that I see in a class, as soon as we say triangle or exhale and go into triangle pose, one of the biggest risk factor is that excessive lumbar curve, right? So they're actually making those excessive lumbar curve, or they're making this forward rotation. You notice people doing something like this in a class. They're collapsing their chest. They're reaching the floor down because even though their body does not allow them, they're folding forward so they can reach down. And this kind of things you notice. This is not a right way to do a triangle pose, just so you know. So let's break it down. Let's understand first what is triangle pose. So triangle pose, from an energetic effect, it comes from the family of a lateral bend, or what we call in yoga the side bend, right? It's an asymmetrical pose. So one side of the body, we do it first and then we do on a other side. The breath that is involved in this pose is an exhale breath because we're doing the classical, the lower body triangle, right? The vayu that we focus in this pose is definitely your primary vayu is your apana and your samana, and your secondary vayu is your vyana vayu. The dosha that pacifies this pose is pitta kapha. That doesn't mean vata does not get to do triangle, right? If you need to learn more about what an Ayurvedic yoga is, I'm going to link my video here that kind of describe you, that make you understand what an Ayurvedic yoga is. From a vata, we do a different variation in the pose, just so you know. The overall effect of this pose is a very langna, or what we call the purification effect. So understand such a beautiful lot of benefit of this pose, and still people are not doing it right. So let's understand first how to do this pose right. So when I'm teaching this pose in my class, I usually pay attention. First thing first, I always tell my clients, make sure you're not spreading out too wide to begin with, right? If you are the person who have a tension in your SI, in your lower back, then remember, shorten your stand, check your front leg, that heel needs to be in a line with the back instep. You have a little internal rotation in your back leg, so the left toes are slightly coming in, the right toes are facing forward, right? And one biggest mistake, or one biggest way I notice people lead this pose, and that actually is the risk factor of all the things that I mentioned earlier, is they kind of hinge from the hip or have their arms reach forward and then go into the pose. And that creates a lot of tension in that lower back and hip. So instead of doing that, I usually tell my students to kind of pay attention, first of all, to your shoulder and your pelvis, and notice the relation between your pelvis and the legs and the torso. And keeping your shoulders and your hips in the same plane when you're moving. Remember, the pose is a lateral bend, side bend family pose. So we really, really benefit from the lateral or side bending movement of that spine, right? This is the movement that we don't do a lot in our day-to-day life. So it's okay to bend from the spine or bend from that torso. So keeping your shoulders and hip in a line, making sure as you move, have that one piece. So having your third eye, your nostril, your sternum, your belly button, everything in the line. As you first take an inhale, lengthen your spine. And as you exhale, hips and shoulders stays in the same plane, moving on an exhalation, keeping everything in one straight line as you move into that triangle pose. And I try not to teach with the arms bringing out or any of those variation. I usually teach my student with the hands on the hips. And then if it feels comfortable, they can go ahead and rest the right hand wherever it lands, and the left arm can stay here, or the left arm reaches up towards the ceiling, or you can take it towards the crown, towards the front of the mat. And by doing this, the arm reaching up towards the ceiling or up to in the front, it allows you to keep your chest open, so you're not collapsing there, right? It really, really, remember, is you want to really stretch this top ribs. At the same time, the bottom ribs are contracting. So there is a stretching and strengthening action going at the same time in your ribs. And you stay kind of open. And it's a true lateral side bend. Feels so good. And then exhale, coming out. You can always micro bend the front knee when you're doing this pose. And this is how you do Trikonasana without creating a lot of tension in the lower back, in your hips, in your SI joint. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you have any comments for me, please go ahead and mention that in the comment section. I would love to bring more videos like this in future. So let me know what is the next pose you want me to break it down. Until that, see you next week. Namaste.